More? You say there's more decorating don'ts? There are. I have 5 more today that were on my mind when I wrote this last week. So let's get going. The very first one is don't hang stuff on the wall too high. I see this a lot where you walk in and you go, everything is kind of higher. And I know why it happens. A lot of times when people have higher walls, they tend to go up a little bit. The other culprit is if someone's hanging them. For example, let's say your husband or your guy is hanging and he happens to be like over 6 feet. The natural eye kind of goes a little higher. But the tip that helps when you're looking at a couch, for example, bring that artwork down into the space. I'm not saying too low, but I'm just saying things are too high. The other helpful tip, I hope, is when you look at a wall, some of these walls actually down here can even be 12 feet high. Well, you can't like go halvesies. Think of a rule of thirds and bring it down into that room. And think of there's an imaginary line in that rule of thirds. You're bringing it down into the room. That will look better. That will make more sense. It just will. The next has to kind of do with that is look at your artwork. Is your artwork something that's valuable, has lasted over time? Or is it something you've just gotten at Home Goods and just kind of filling a wall? And you know, a lot of us do that. I get it. But let's say the word art for a second. That's not necessarily art. It's artwork, but it's actually posters is what it is. And over time, what do posters do? That's right, they fade. And when they fade, they turn a little purple, especially if they've been near a window. And I notice this sometimes where you're looking at it and you go, it's really kind of neat piece or neat poster or whatever, but and it's framed beautifully and the frame is still good, the mat, but the piece has faded. And that makes other things look bad. So I also want to say on the other end of this, if you have real, I don't necessarily mean artwork, but I mean like a piece that hasn't faded, the piece that's good, but the framing and matting is bad. Wide peach mat with a mauve undertone, or back when forest green and burgundy and those colors, and they're matted in those colors, and then there's like a frame that's maybe like rounded profile, like something you might see in Love Boat. Does that put a date on it? But here's the good news with that stuff. If the piece itself is pretty good, I've taken a lot of clients' artwork like that and just rematted and reframed. Whole new fresh. You've seen me like do a few things on my wall before and afters like that. Brings a whole new breathes life into that stuff. And that looks great. So there's my good news. Next one is rug size. Rugs, to my eye, are either too small for the space or they're too large for the space. Pay attention to the scale and the proportion, not necessarily of the room, but of the furniture arrangement around it. What you'll find is if that sofa is kind of a standard size, most of the time that's about an 8 by 10. But sometimes I'll be on jobs and I'll think, is that a 5 by 7 in the front of the furniture, where you can actually see floor around it, like in front of the furniture? It's too small. It's too small. 9 by 12 sometimes is too big and your furniture is like sitting right on it, or you've got a smaller table sitting on bigger. I know the chairs have to pull out for a dining room, but watch that size, because what happens is your furniture shrinks or the rug gets bigger and it just doesn't look right. So sometimes, like I said, 8 by 10s work. It depends. So just take a look at that. Is your rug doing what it's supposed to be doing? And if not, use it in another space. So there's good news too. See, with my don'ts, I give good news, all right? This is about lighting. I could do a whole don'ts on lighting. I could do a do's and don'ts on lighting. But this is one because I see it a lot and I'm on jobs a lot where, and even new construction, hey, we're going to put pendants in our kitchen. Pendants have kind of a short trend life. That is what I've noticed. Which is fine because there's not a huge ticket item. So I just say go ahead and have fun with it. But sometimes you don't need one. You don't need them. You could even do just the pools of recessed cans. I did a kitchen for ourselves years ago in Pennsylvania. And I chose not to do any because I just wanted my beautiful quartz countertops to show, and I just wanted the pools of light. I didn't want anything hanging in the way. Another answer to that is there's some good glass ones that you can see through. I'm just saying, warning, the trend life kind of goes pretty quickly. I'm already seeing some trends that I kind of like, I'm like, that's already gone. It's already, watch it with the pendants. That's it. Oh, and also, that's another too high thing. People hang them too high. Bring them down into the space. Let's say you have a big island and they need to come into the space a little bit. If you have problems with that, call me. All right. And lastly, we got to address this because I've actually been addressing this now for a few years. I'm going to say it again. And it's just about paint. So we're cool. It's just about paint. Paint is not a big ticket item. And you're loving it, it's working. If you love it and it's working in your home, it's working for you. I'm going to say that disclaimer all the way through this. All right, but it's about the paint color gray. And I'm going to bring it up because I see this over and over and over, and I will use this as an example. Back in the day, it was sage green. Remember when a lot of people had sage green? I had it, I think, in my laundry room years ago. There was a certain swatch for a lot of different people. It worked. The ancient marble and the grassland and that spelt sage, they were great. There's nothing wrong with those colors. But once they get done, people are running away from them, okay? Then it became brown. I remember I used a color called Portobello. Very nice color. Again, nothing wrong with it. But when people were done with brown, man, they were done with brown. And they were going to grays. But I'm going to say, people, when they're done with gold, they are done with gold. They are done with the red dining room. Well, guess what? Saturated color is coming back in, meaning clear color. Some of you ask me that. When I say saturated color, I mean clear color. Those reds, those clear reds are coming back. Those clear yellows, clear cobalt blue, it's coming back. It's already here, actually. But all of America doesn't get on board for a while. I understand that. I see color. I do color forecasting. I see what's ahead. Okay, so I just want to be careful with the gray trend. There are some really beautiful ones out there. Hey, totally. There are jobs that, yeah, absolutely, this job calls for a gray. But I try and get my clients into, if the job calls for it, into a little warmer, a little lighter, so it makes sense and it will last longer. The right color the first time. That was always my tagline for years. The right color the first time, just get it right. And that is it for today. But like I said, I have more and I could keep going. But for now, this is a wrap. This is a wrap.